On May 6, 2021, Pfizer wired $2,875,842 to the United States Treasury. Anti-vaxxers called it a bribe. The FDA called it a required payment. 5 years later, an 8.4 million person study found something the people who approved the drug didn't want to look for. Here's what happened. The wire transfer was real. Pfizer, May 6, 2021, $2,875,842. Sent to the United States Department of the Treasury. The memo line said it was for BLA 125742. That is the biologics license application for the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine. The number is not a coincidence. That exact dollar amount, $2,875,842, was published 9 months earlier in the Federal Register. Volume 85, page 47,753, dated August 3, 2020. That is the FI 2021 Prescription Drug User Fee Act. PDUFA, application fee for a BLA that requires clinical data. So what is PDUFA? Signed into law in 1992 by President George H.W. Bush. Public Law 102571. Codified at 21 U.S.C. 379G. The reason it exists. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, AIDS activists were furious at how long it took the FDA to approve new drugs. ACT UP protested at the FDA headquarters. 18 people were arrested in October of 1988. AIDS patients were dying while the agency ran review clocks of 29 months. The industry offered money. The FDA agreed to speed. Everyone signed. The deal is this. Drug companies pay the FDA a fee when they submit a drug for review. The FDA uses that money to hire more reviewers and hit performance targets. Review times, mostly. The fees supplement, not replace, federal appropriations. Theoretically. In practice, by 2021, the FDA's $6.1 billion budget was funded 46% by industry user fees. $2.8 billion a year. Every drug company pays. Pfizer pays. Merck pays. The startup with one molecule in phase 2 trials, it pays. The fees scale with inflation. The FI 2021 BLA fee with clinical data was $2,875,842. The FI 2026 fee for the same category is $4,682,003. So Pfizer writes that check. The FDA reviews the BLA. The vaccine gets emergency use authorization in December of 2020. Full approval in August of 2021. Median priority review time, 6.4 months. Before PDUFA, 13.2 months. The system worked. Now, 5 years later, a study. September 26, 2025. Biomarker Research publishes a paper from a team of Korean researchers at Ua Women's University. Kim and colleagues. 8.4 million people in the Korean National Health Insurance Database. They look at everyone who got a COVID vaccine between 2021 and 2023. They match them against everyone who didn't. After statistical matching, about 595,000 vaccinated and 2,380,000 unvaccinated. Then they look at who got cancer in the year after vaccination. The numbers are statistically significant, statistically robust, not noise. The strongest signal, prostate cancer. Hazard ratio 1.69. Confidence interval 1.35 to 2.11. A 69% higher rate in vaccinated men in the year after the shot. And it's not just prostate. Lung cancer, hazard ratio 1.53. Thyroid, 1.35. Gastric, 1.34. Colorectal, 1.28. Breast, 1.2. 6 different cancers. All statistically significant. All pointing the same direction. Booster doses, specifically, were linked to gastric and pancreatic cancers. The paper's authors are careful. They say the data shows an association. They say causation is not established. They say more study is needed. They never tell anyone to stop taking the vaccine. They never claim the vaccines are unsafe. They publish a peer-reviewed statistical finding, and they say, please look at this. Reveal, the procedure, 55S, Andrew plus 5%. Here is what happened after publication. October 22, 2025. 26 days later. Biomarker Research posts an editorial notice on the paper. The exact wording. Readers are alerted that concerns with this article have been raised with the editors. Editorial action will be taken as appropriate once the concerns have been fully investigated. The paper does not get retracted. The paper does not get corrected. The paper does not get cleared. The paper sits. As of today, August 22, 2026. 10 months later, the investigation is still open. 44 citations later. Citable. Cited. But officially unresolved. March 31st, 2026. 5 months after publication. A team of Belgian epidemiologists at the University of Namur, the University of Antwerp, and the Belgian Healthcare Knowledge Center publishes a rebuttal in Frontiers in Public Health. 6 points. The index dates are different for vaccinated and unvaccinated groups. That's a methodological problem. There's residual confounding. There's surveillance bias. Vaccinated people go to the doctor more, get more screenings, find more cancers. There's no correction for multiple testing. They recommend a reanalysis with stricter methodology. They don't call the study fake. They don't call the scientists liars. They call the analysis incomplete. The paper's authors say the same thing the Belgian team says. Both sides agree. The data warrants a better study. Neither side claims causation. Neither side claims vindication. The drug stays on the market. The fees keep flowing. June 3rd, 2026. 8 months after publication. A British oncologist named Angus Dalgleish goes to the United States Senate. He's a real professor. Emeritus at St. George's, University of London. Co-discoverer of the CD4 receptor for HIV. Not a crank. He testifies before Senator Ron Johnson's subcommittee. He says he has watched patients relapse after booster doses. He says the cancers are real. He never cites the Korean study directly. He testifies about his own clinical experience. August 3rd, 2026. The CDC gets falsely accused of admitting that COVID vaccines are the largest carcinogenic exposure in history. Snopes rates that false. The claim originated from a Facebook post citing the Korean study. The same one biomarker research still hasn't ruled on. Earlier in the year, September 6, 2025, before the Korean paper existed, a different British doctor named U.S.C. Malhotra quoted him at the Reform UK Party conference. Malhotra blamed the mRNA vaccines for King Charles's cancer and Princess of Wales's cancer. Reform UK distanced itself. The health secretary called it shockingly irresponsible. A professor of immunology at Cambridge called it outlandish conspiracy theory. So, the paper is real. The data is real. The signal is real. The investigators disagree about what the signal means. The drug is approved. The fees are paid. The next round of fees is being negotiated right now. What does this mean for you? 2 things. The first, the FDA is funded 46% by the companies it regulates. That number has held for years. It will hold until 2027, when the current PDUFA authorization expires. The next round, PDUFA 8, covers fiscal years 2028 through 2032. Negotiations are happening now. Industry meetings, FDA meetings, public meetings. The current PDUFA 7 reauthorization was passed in 2022 with no major changes to the user fee structure. The second, you can comment. The FDA is taking public comments on PDUFA 8 right now. A public meeting is scheduled for September 16, 2026. Comments are due October 16, 2026. The Federal Register notice was published August 14th. The docket is open. Most people do not know this exists. If you want the FDA to look at the Korean study before approving the next round of mRNA drugs, that is the moment. And if nobody comments, it will pass. The way it always passes. Quietly. With bipartisan support. Like it has every 5 years for 30 years. Well. Look at what happens. When you let an industry fund the budget of the organization that's supposed to be regulating it. The industry writes the check. The organization writes the approval. And then the organization wonders why you don't trust it. The industry pays for the review. The review happens faster than it would have without the money. The drugs hit the market sooner. People get treatments they would have died waiting for. That is the design. That is the deal. That is what was signed into law in 1992 by a Republican president with bipartisan support in the middle of an AIDS crisis to speed up the system that was too slow. And for 30 years, the deal held. Review times dropped from 29 months to 6. New drugs hit the market. Hundreds of them. Cancer drugs, AIDS drugs, hepatitis C cures. Real lives saved. Real people who got treatments they would have died waiting for. That is the win side of the deal. No honest person denies it. And then the mRNA vaccines came. 8 months from sequence to first dose. The fastest vaccine development in human history. Reviewed under emergency use authorization. Reviewed under full approval. Reviewed under the same PDUFA fee structure that paid for the reviewers. The same FDA that took 8 months to approve the vaccine. That is the same FDA that is now 5 years into a study the public was never told to look at. The same 8.4 million Koreans. The same 20 to 70% higher cancer rates. The same editorial limbo that nobody is resolving. And nobody is going to tell you that the study exists. Pfizer isn't going to send you a press release. The FDA isn't going to send you a notification.
The Angry Otter is not a licensed FDA regulatory attorney, Prescription Drug User Fee Act scholar, Korean epidemiologist, or Senate subcommittee witness. This video discusses a peer-reviewed Korean cohort study of 8.4 million individuals that found a statistically significant association between mRNA COVID-19 vaccination and 6 types of cancer within 1 year of vaccination. The study's authors did not establish causation. A Belgian team at the University of Namur and University of Antwerp published a 6-point rebuttal in March 2026. The journal Biomarker Research has had the paper under editorial review since October 2025. As of August 2026, no retraction, no correction, no resolution. Side effects of watching this video may include an uncontrollable urge to read the Federal Register notice on PDUFA 8 reauthorization, a sudden interest in submitting public comments to FDA docket FDA 2026 and 8163 before October 16, low-grade frustration with how post-market drug surveillance works in the United States, and a strong desire to know who was supposed to be watching the 8.4 million Koreans. The Angry Otter. Subscribe.